Germany, 1967. The children of the Nazi generation have grown up in the ruin their parents created. They vowed fascism would never rule their country again. In their fight for freedom, they lost themselves in the cause.
Da sind mehr von uns drin als draußen.
And ignited a revolution around the world. The Baader-Meinhof complex, based on the true story of the Red Army faction.
How many roads must a man walk?
Welcome to the Savage Nation. Today is going to be quite an experience for most of you who lived through the 60s. And only I can do it. I'm the only one in the American media with the historical knowledge, the perspective, and the, I have the ability to tell you the following story. So you heard the opening, didn't you? For the last 2 nights or so, I've been watching a movie on Showtime called the Baader-Meinhof group. And because I've known who they were, I've tried to tell you about them. I try to tell you that many of the people in the Obama administration, particularly the czars, they're the most obvious, are children of the Baader-Meinhof Red Army faction philosophy, which stems from the Marcuse school. I can trace it even further back than that. Many of you heard about Alinsky, so you know a little bit about it, and you know Bill Ayers, that name rings a bell, street radical from Chicago, lifetime friend of Obama. You know about all of these connections, but you don't know where they came from, and where they're going, and where we are now. What I'm going to tell you today is that Obama is a child not only of the 60s in a philosophical sense, but he's very much a child of the Baader-Meinhof or Frankfurt School or the Marcuse School of Revolution, which is you don't have to do it violently, you can do it from within. So welcome to the Savage Nation. We are actually living through a cultural and social revolution in the United States of America, let alone not solely the economic revolution that Obama is trying to conduct upon the heads of the American people. You know that he's conducting an economic revolution where he's taking from the middle to give to the rich. He's trying to shrink the middle class, knowingly doing so in the minds of many, in order to create a two-class society, not a three-class society. The two-class society was typical of the older order of the Soviet states, perhaps not so much today with the third-way kind of socialist states that we see that have emerged in Russia and in China. But nevertheless, the old model of the two-class society, the ruling elite, the bureaucracy, the bureaucrats, and the workers. The middle class, of course, has always been the definition of the United States of America. The thing that made us special was the large middle class, most of whom listens to this show. This show is a middle-class show, make no mistake about it. And so I have to go back with you, please. You're going to have to indulge me, because to me, unless you know where we have come from, you'll not really understand where Obama wants to drag this country. Many of you have got an inkling of who he is. Many of you have an inkling of what he's trying to do with the health care, but you don't really understand the bigger picture. And what you really don't understand is that this is only one step of a long march through the United States of America. And I pointedly use the phrase, the long march, because that was the phrase used by Mao Zedong, the mass murderer who killed 60 million Chinese in his own country, making over the communist nation into a communist state. Many of the ideals and the goals and the tactics of Mao Zedong are actually being practiced right now by Barack Hussein Obama, short of the violence. Now, I have to reiterate that this is not happening in a vacuum. When you see the Democrat Party melting down in front of your eyes, they know that 65% of the American people do not want government medicine. 65% of the American people, even Democrats, have said, no, we don't want it. It's going to be more expensive, less care. It's going to be intrusive. We don't want it. And yet Barack Hussein Obama will wreck the Democrat Party to push this one piece of legislation forward. And there's a reason for it. It's because Obama's not truly a Democrat. Obama is truly a Marxist socialist rather than a Democrat. So he doesn't care what happens to the Democrat Party. He is answering to a higher power, an international power. He's answering, in essence, to Reverend Wright. He's answering to the sugar plum fairies that dance in his head, the sugar plum fairies known as Mao Zedong, Karl Marx, Engels. Shall I go down the list? Because I will over today and tomorrow. I realize it's not the meat and potatoes that you've come to expect from talk radio, but we have to do it. We have to do it so you understand the danger we're in. You have to do it so you understand how little time is left before there's a total takeover of every aspect of your life from the cradle to grave, which starts with health care reform. And so, again, I take you back in time to the Baader-Meinhof gang in Germany in the 70s. You don't have to actually know who Baader was or who Meinhof was to understand what I'm about to tell you. I'll just tell you in short, the Baader-Meinhof gang was a radical left-wing group of machine gunners and bombers who attacked the middle class, kidnapped, all in the name of peace, justice, and love. Now, they supported the Arab cause. They hated Jews in Israel. They claimed they hated Zionism, not Jews, but of course they hated Jews and Zionism, being the grandchildren or the children of Nazis. They really didn't fall far from the tree. Although they posed as leftists who were out for social justice and in favor of the Third World and the Third World liberation theology, by the way, which Obama was fed for 20 straight years at his church, in his colleges, etc., liberation theology. You heard all of that, Third World liberation theology. It's exactly what Obama was bred and schooled in. And the Obama-Baader-Meinhof connection is what I want to talk about today. So that when we talk about the health care bill, which is going to come up over and over again, you have to understand how this connects to the radicals going back to the Baader-Meinhof gang, who were influenced by the writings of Mao Zedong and the philosophers associated with what is called the Frankfurt School, and Marxist philosophers such as Herbert Marcuse. Now, many of you have heard of Saul Alinsky and Bill Ayers, but you may not have heard of Herbert Marcuse. Herbert Marcuse was the founder of the Frankfurt School of Marxist theory. And one of the main ideas of the Frankfurt School was that instead of outright revolution and social disruption, the left would allow society to continue providing goods and services and to defend the nation, while they, the left-wing intellectuals, would take charge of education, manipulate the public with media propaganda, corrupt morality through the entertainment industry, and infiltrate government bureaucracy at all levels. Does it sound familiar? This is exactly what Barack Obama has succeeded in doing. He's not the first, but he certainly should be the last in this long line of Marxist revolutionaries who have been in the White House. I would say Bill Clinton was the first. We also know that Obama's childhood mentor, Frank Marshall Davis, was a member of the Communist Party. We know that Obama admits attending, quote, socialist conferences. We know that Obama admits reading Marxist literature. We know that Obama became a community organizer and came into contact with the Democratic Socialists of America, who then endorsed his campaign for Illinois State Senate. And we know that Obama became friends with William Ayers, a member of the socialist group, Students for Democratic Society, which was a violent group, by the way. And yet now Obama has infiltrated government bureaucracy to the highest level of all. The Baader-Meinhof gang used violence to try to achieve socialism, and they failed. They were defeated. But Obama was more faithful to Herbert Marcuse and his plan to infiltrate government peacefully, and he has succeeded beyond his wildest dreams.